Welcome to the Pat White Show. If you're one of those folks who doesn't live in the Northwest Allen County area, in the Northwest Allen County Area School District, what I'm going to talk about means nothing to you. But if you do live in that area, what I'm going to talk about does mean something to you because it'll be money. Money coming from your wallet going to the school. Here's the problem that they have in Northwest Allen County. You see, realtors will tell you location, location, location is the most important thing where you want to live. The best schools, the best homes, the best neighborhoods. Well, it turns out over the years, Northwest Allen County has turned out to be, well, the best location, location, location. Got a great school district there. You've got Carroll High School, one of the biggest schools and one of the best schools and one of the best equipped schools in the entire county, maybe part of the state for that matter. But one little problem has happened. You see, the way they get their money is from the state. And the state gives out a certain amount of money, education fund, which pays for the salaries of the teachers. But there's another fund that's a problem for the Northwest Allen County District, and that's the operations fund. That's another place where they get a certain amount of money from, well, taxes. And in the state of Indiana, the tax cap on your home is 4%. So that sounds all well and good, but doesn't necessarily generate a whole lot of money for Northwest Allen County School District. So they're asking for, well, you in the Northwest Allen County School District to pay more money. There's going to be a referendum on the 4th of November, and folks in this area are going to vote either yes or no. Yes, I want to pay more property taxes, or no, I don't. A couple of organizations. One's for it, the other one's against it. The one against it is the Americans for Property in Indiana, and they're based out of Virginia. So they're not a local organization, but they're a grassroots organization saying, hey, we just can't afford that. People don't have the money anymore. They don't have the expense. They don't want their property taxes going up, even if it's been claimed to be $9 a month. Probably ultimately be more than that. That's the way things work out in government for anybody who asks you about it. But the problem that they have in Northwest Allen County is they've got a lot of residential areas, and they're capped at that, what they can get. And right now they say they're platted for another 4,000 plus homes. Now, if you have 4,000 plus homes, and let's say there's one kid per home, which is probably not a good number, but let's use that for a number. 4,000 kids would be coming into the school system. Well, right now, there's a bigger issue going on. Some are saying, hey, they're going to need to put a new high school in Northwest Allen County. And eventually, they're going to have to think about that. Not that anybody wants to think about it right now, but essentially, they want more money to cover the non-instructional staff, things that they require, the buses, the bus drivers, the insurance, the HR, the resource officers, and, capital improvements, whatever they determine that to be. So there's going to be a vote coming up, and it happens on November the 4th. You decide you live in the area, you want your taxes to go up, or you don't. It's your call. But right now, the teachers in Northwest Allen County are paid on average, well, quite a bit less than teachers around the state and even around Allen County because of this disparity that exists. But the problem is, it's all houses, but yes, there is commercial property. But believe it or not, in Northwest Allen County, the biggest property, the biggest commercial venture in Northwest Allen County is a nonprofit. And that nonprofit keeps growing and putting in more installation, more stuff, and more things going on. But nonprofits don't pay, well, that kind of taxes, do they? So other areas of the city, yes, they've got commercial to draw from, money from those commercial properties that are not tax-free or tax-exempt, for lack of a better term. But more houses come in, they can't get as much money as other areas do. So the vote's going to happen, and it's going to happen on November the 4th. You decide what you want. But there's a bigger thing that you've got to keep in mind. If you read the small print of these agreements, these documentations that are put out, remember, In the small print, it says, the district can do whatever they want to with the money, within reason, of course. But if they want to make some changes with the money that's drawn and where it goes and how it's appropriated, they have that right. Now, they built a brand new administration building at the corner of Union Chapel and Coldwater Road. It's a lovely place. Someone said they have marble floors. I don't know. Never been in there. But I did notice something on the outside that made me kind of go, what? They have a very, very nice and frankly expensive alternate power system, diesel powered, in case the power goes out. Now, I don't know about you, but is that something that really needed to be put into that facility? I'm just asking. Do all the schools have backup power sources for them in case the power goes out in their area? But why does a headquarters for the executives of the Northwest Allen County School District have a big, giant diesel backup power generator? I'm just asking that question, just me personally. Nobody else told me to mention it, just something that caught my eye. Not many people have that. I'm just trying to figure out if that was worth the money spent. Just a public opinion, and it's my public opinion. But all things concerned, how the referendum is going to turn out, I don't know. Whatever side you're on, it's the side you're on. But November the 4th, you'll make a vote. More money for the schools and more money out of your wallet. That's the way it works, folks. That's how government works. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't work great for the consumer. Well, a couple of months ago, Governor Braun decided to issue an executive order. Order was number 25-41. That order was, something a lot of people went, you got to be kidding me. Thought, they can't be doing this. Well, you know what the order was? Allowing plain black license plates to be issued in the state of Indiana. Now, there's hundreds of plates you can choose from in this state. I mean, about every group you can think of's got a plate. But the standard plates are pretty much the white color and the various other colors that go on, depending on what organization you're part of. But the basic Indiana plate is white. So Governor Braun says, you know what? We're going to have a new plate, a black plate, the blackout plate. And costs you $45, but the $34 of that $45 goes to the BMV. The other goes to other state improvements, make things better for people who live in Indiana, like you and me. Well, it turns out in the first month those plates were available, 22,000 were sold. And thus far, as of right now, that number has gone up to 40,000, and the revenue from those plates has gone up to $1.3 million. Besides, a lot of people decided they want to have a black license plate. Have you seen them? I have seen them. I'm going, those things are pretty cool. Now, I've got a specialty plate, but if you want to get yourself one of these specialty black plates, you can get them. Going to cost you $45. Now, you can make a replacement fee if you got one you want to replace with a black plate. I believe that costs you like $9.50. And there's still the fees when you file and all the setup fees and everything else. But if you want to get yourself one of those Indiana black plates, the new ones that just came out, kind of reminds you of California when you think about it, except theirs was black and yellow, as I recall. But you want to get a black and white plate? Well, it's now available at your favorite BMV, wherever it happens to be. Costs you $45, but you can get a transfer for $9.50. But you want to have that plate? It's now available, and you can join nearly 50,000 residents who've already changed and brought $1.3 million into state coffers. Not bad. I'll give the governor credit on that one. I like the license plate, and I like the fact that people can decide what they want to put on their car for identification. Makes sense to me. You want a black plate? You can get one. Just put down your money and get ready, because you can go black. So do you want to hear something really disturbed about America? Well, here's one for you. Let's see what you think of this. The Woodrow Wilson Institute has now figured out, and in a study, that 1 in 3 Americans could pass a citizenship test. Think about that. 1 in 3 Americans could now pass a U.S. citizenship test, which means that, hey, we could probably get rid of a whole bunch of Americans if we want to. Not that we should, but only 1 in 3 could pass it. And yet people coming in who want to be parts of America, they've got to pass it to become an American. And yet the rest of America, only 1 in 3 could pass that test. And then 1/3, now this is really important, 1/3 of Americans under the age of 45 are unable to demonstrate a basic understanding of government or history. Only less than a third? That means 2/3 can, but less than a third are unable to do it. Now, why is that? I'll tell you why I think it is. When I was going to school back eons ago, back in the Stone Age, one of the classes we had to take was called civics. Yep, civics class. Had to learn about government, the way it worked, all the stuff that went on in government. And that's what we had to learn. And that's why they're saying people over the age of 48 know what government does, because people over the age of 48 probably had to take civics class. So why did they cut civics class out of the curriculum for schools? It's a good question. I don't know. And it could be that maybe they didn't want people to understand what government was, and so they wouldn't care about it, so government could do whatever they wanted. That's one theory. Can't guarantee it's the real theory, but it's a theory. But they've eliminated civics class in schools, so kids don't know what's going on. I remember they used to have the cartoon, ABC, Schoolhouse Rock, I think it was called. A little character about a bill going on the hill and singing songs or whatever about how a bill becomes law, how things happen in government. You used to see that on ABC. It was kind of like after school information. But people are figuring out they don't know this stuff. And this new organization called America 250 Civic Education Coalition. Now, that includes the Turning Point USA folks. Charlie Kirk started up. Charlie Kirk started up his Turning Point USA to promote civic literacy. Civic literacy, so you understood how government worked. That's what he was trying to do. And here's what they've kind of figured out. Way back in the year 2000, that was the turn of the century, 25 years ago, 87% of Americans said they believed in their country. They were proud of their country. Well, that has drastically changed now because it's down to 58%. 58%. It's dropped 30%. That's really terrifying when you think about it. And now we've found out that the young crowd, the millennials, 40% of the millennials believe it's perfectly fine to use violence to, eliminate something that you don't like as an opinion. That's where we are, America. We've gone from 87% approval and loving this country to only 53%. That's not a good number. That's a bad number when you think about it. 87% said they were proud back in the year 2000. Now, it's down into the 50 percentile range, which means we've lost, over 30% of people believing they're proud of America? If you're not proud of America, then why live here? Maybe go someplace where you'd be happier. I don't know. Can't tell you that. Can't suggest that either. But there's something happening. There's something that's not going right. When Americans say they don't understand government because they're not taught it anymore, and as a result, what was like America, loved America back in the year 2000, 87%, now dropped to 50-some percent. Half of America doesn't like America. I don't know which half that is. If you look at politics, don't like it. And frankly, you don't necessarily have to ask the question which side it is. But here's what you do need to know. More America, the more people hate this country, the worse it's going to get. And things like this have a way of evolving into things that are never good. And now we're learning something else. We're learning young people, young folks, the younger folks down there, the generation millennials or whatever they call themselves. Over 40% of millennials think that violence is acceptable to take on and destroy something that they perceive they don't like. Now think about that for a second. 40% plus of those young people are willing to say violence is acceptable on somebody or something we don't like. That's never good, folks. So now we realize there's no civic in schools. A third of Americans couldn't pass a citizenship test. And now we learn that a little over 50% of America still likes this country. In the year 2000, it was 78%. Something's gone wrong, folks. Something's gone really wrong. I'm not sure we can get it back. Hopefully we can. And I'm not sure what it's going to take to have it done. But right now, America's not in a good position. And I hope it comes back. But you know what? Wishing and hoping, thinking and praying ain't going to make things better. It takes everybody going in the right direction to make sure we save our country. So have you tried to go out and buy yourself a ring, a gold ring, maybe a gold pendant, gold charm or whatever? You may have noticed that the prices have gone up. Well, you'd be correct. Turns out the price of 1 ounce of gold back in, 6 months ago in April of 2025 was $2,500 an ounce. Now that's up from a couple of years ago when it was like $1,100 an ounce. But today, 6 months later after the April event, gold is now $4,000 an ounce. You're saying to yourself, what? How can gold be up to $4,000 an ounce? Well, it's because people are buying it, and gold is a scarce commodity. You may think, oh, everybody has gold. You can go anywhere and find gold. You go over to the Middle East, they're dispensing it in machines. Yes, they are. But there is a finite amount of gold that exists. And when it comes to money, the kind of folding stuff, that is not finite. That could be as much as any country or any government wants to print. They can print as much as they want. You know, back when COVID happened a few years back, the Biden administration decided, hey, America needs an influx of money. So they set out $2 trillion, you heard me right, $2 trillion, put it into the economy. Sent people checks, personal paycheck accounts. Massive fraud was going on in the United States back then. But $2 trillion went into our economy, into the M1 supply. That money ended up reducing the value of the money currently in the supply by roughly 20%. Hence, if your money's worth 20% less because you put more money in with nothing to back it, because nothing backs American currency but the word of the government. You know, back many, many years ago when FDR was president, we had a gold standard. It was called the gold standard. You had the gold in Fort Knox, Kentucky, backing up the American currency, because that's what it was. But gold back then wasn't worth a whole lot of money back then, like it is today. So they took us off the gold standard and said, nah, we're just going to have the word of the government to say what your money's worth. So that $2 trillion that was injected into the economy back in the Biden era, that made inflation shoot up 20%. And the only way to drop that 20% to get it back out is to take that $2 trillion back out of the economy. Well, can't put toothpaste back into the tube once you squeeze it out, folks. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. So that's where it stands. But what causes all the money to go up originally, or all the cost of gold to go up originally? Well, there's two things. Two things that cause gold to go up in price: economic conditions and geopolitical situations. Economic is money. The global economy, the inflation rate. You know, our inflation rate, like I said, went up 20%. Inflation rate goes up 20%, gold's going to go up because gold is worth more because it's finite. The interest rates, once again, those have been staying high for a number of years. Gold is even more valuable. And financial stability. Now think about that. Think about how financially strong. Remember when Trump came in, he said, we're going to have all these tariffs. People panicked. Said, oh, it's going to be bad. It's going to destroy the economy. Turns out it hasn't. Wall Street has gone higher than ever. Inflation has gone down in the 2.3% range. I mean, inflation is not going up. The GDP of America has gone up, 3%? Everything's been going up, but still financial stability is something gold works on. But right now, the concern is financial stability and global security. Global security. We got a war in Ukraine going on, still going on. It's been going on, what, over 2 years now? You got the Arab-Israeli war going on. What's happening in Gaza? Hopefully, the president has finally solved that problem. It appears he has. But all of this adds up, folks. All adds up. So when you go buy something gold now, whether you need to get a gold ring for an engagement ring or you get a gold medallion, whatever you want to get gold, you're going to find out the cost has gone up dramatically. If you want to buy one of them gold watches, you want a nice gold Rolex, it's going to cost you even more. So gold is now up to $4,000 an ounce. It was as high as $4,066, but right now it's down about $4,000 even. So the problems that exist in the world scare the prices of products. And investors say if prices aren't stable, they're going to revert to something they know is a finite commodity. And that finite commodity is gold. And with the silver now being $50 an ounce, first time in history, it's all moving up, folks. The problem is the world getting better every single day? Many would say no. And many are economists. And economists are the ones saying, oh, woe is us. So the investors, they just buy more gold and make what's out there a whole lot more expensive. Now, you understand the gold market? Because that's what it is, folks. Our gold exists in the banks, doesn't exist in the Treasury, because the United States government does not base its currency off of gold. It bases it off the word of the government. And do you take the word of government to be gold? Well, if you do, you live in a different zip code than I do. Over the past couple of weeks, I've taken a lot of, heat for talking about Pete Hegseth being the Secretary of Defense and how he called a whole bunch of generals, and I mean the commanding generals, because there's a lot of generals out there, folks, but the commanding generals of various forces around the United States, whether it's Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, the head guys of those particular areas, he called them into Quantico for a meeting, a stand-up, we call it in the military, and they had their senior enlisted folks with them. And he told them in no uncertain terms, gentlemen and ladies, woke in the military is done. And he was very vociferous about it and very pointed about it. Said, we're going back to becoming like we used to be, warriors. Because I made a point saying warriors have won wars. You do not, and I'll say it again, you do not socially engineer the United States military. I'm sorry. You may say that and say, well, no, we need diversity. No, we don't. Now they said, well, back in World War II, they didn't allow blacks. Yes, they did. Fortunately, they segregated them. This is how we ended up with the great Tuskegee Airmen, and who actually were astounding during World War II. And yes, I can tell you something else. If you talk about the Alcan Highway into Alaska, a lot of that highway was built by black soldiers because they sent them up to Alaska to build the Alcan, and they did it in record time. Well, all those folks were integrated into the military. So blacks, whites, everybody's the same in the military. And yes, women were not part of the military. As a matter of fact, as far as Air Force pilots go, or military pilots, they didn't start until the mid-1970s. But today, women pilots are everywhere. So yes, there has been that integration. But integration is different than allowing people who wear a dress and are a guy. Sorry. Transgender, I'm sorry. You just simply can't be who you think you are instead of who you really are. Now, that's pretty cut and dried. You don't understand that. You need to go back to being warriors. No more social education, no more diversity. And if you're going to appoint somebody and you're going to raise them in their particular position, you do it by merit, not the color of your skin, not because of what particular gender you happen to be. In the military, you earn your stripes by merit. That's what needs to be done. Now, things going on in the military. Well, you know what? I can talk about the Tuskegee Airmen. You realize a brand new trainer the United States Air Force is getting, they have named after the Tuskegee Airmen. It's called the T-7A. It's called the Red Hawk because the Tuskegee Airmen had aircraft with red tails painted on them. That became their moniker, their style, their panache. But he identified it by that. Well, the new fighter, and I'll tell you what, this is an incredible fighter, is replacing the T-38 that I trained on. And matter of fact, I probably about 250,000 Air Force pilots all trained on that particular T-38. But now the new T-7 is coming in, and the T-7 is designed to, well, be like the F-22 Raptor and the F-35. That's what's changing. Matter of fact, I've got a young man I've been sponsoring for a long time, met down in Florida 10 years ago through his father. His name is Reese Morris. Well, Reese is about to graduate from Florida State University, and he's going to go on to pilot training. And I hope someday that he gets to fly that T-7A, something I've never flown. Probably he's going to get to fly it. And nothing could make me happier. But I tell you right now, the military does not need social engineering. What Pete Hegseth said was correct. And by the way, something you didn't know, you realize that roughly 1/3 of the Secretary of Defenses that we've had since the late 1940s, 1/3 have never served in the military. Never. Pete Hegseth has served overseas with more than one tour. He's a major in the military, was a major, and he knows the military and loves what he does. By the way, as far as being physically fit, he is. And he wants everybody in the military to be physically fit again. It means you got to run the 1.5 miles and score bright. You got to look good, feel good, and be good. You got to be a warrior. That's what he wants. And I, for one, respect that. So I'll tell you right now, for those of you that say, well, we need diversity in the military. No, we don't. Women are flying. Blacks are serving. It's the same in a foxhole. Nobody really cares. Your blood is basically red. Doesn't matter. The military is made of people who want to serve. And something you should know. Since Trump became the president, you realize the military is full with their ranks. You know, back under the Biden administration, we couldn't meet the quotas. We couldn't get enough people who wanted to serve in the military. Now, everybody wants to serve, or at least those who want to serve and are qualified to serve are being accepted. The ranks of the military are back where they should be, because our job in the military, whether anybody likes it or not, is to kill people and break stuff. That's what we do. Hopefully, we don't have to do it. But right now, what the Secretary of War is doing is telling all the generals, get in line, no more woke, and get in shape. Nothing wrong with that, folks. I'll stand by that any day of the week. You know, probably the happiest place that any parent would want to take their kid during the kid's youth when they're really young is to Disneyland or Disney World. Take the kids to the mouse. Man, that's like the crowning achievement. If you've ever been to Disneyland or Disney World, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's magical. They see things they couldn't believe. And when I was young, anything Disney was really cool. To see Disneyland or Disney World, man, that was a treat. But now, you know, visiting either of those places is now a financial hardship for many people. As a matter of fact, the folks at Disney just announced new pricing for Disney. Now, I want to start out with Disneyland out there in California. They had the largest jump in ticket prices. The park's Tier 6 one-day ticket, Tier 6 one-day ticket to be used on the busiest and the highest demand days rose $18, up to $224 per adult. That's a 126% jump over the past decade. 126% increase. That's over in Disneyland in California. The 5-day Hopper Pass that grants to Disney's Disneyland Park and Disney California Adventure out in California, that rose $39 to $655. One day, $655. Now, if you want to get the Lightning multi pass, well, that went up 6.25% to $34, but you got to purchase that ahead of time. Now, that's Disney World over there on the West Coast. If you want to go to Disney World in the Mouse in Orlando, here's the latest things you need to know. Disneyland's Inspire Key, the park's highest annual pass, it increased by $150. Apparently, this is like I said, an annual pass. It is now $1,899. The Believe Key is the next level down, so it's one level down. Went up $100 to $1,474. Now, down at the Mouse in Disney World, the peak one-day ticket price was raised by $10. You'd say, well, that's not too bad, is it? Well, now the price of one-day pass, $209. One adult, one day, $209. Annual passes rose between $20 and $30. But one day at the Mouse, $209. And if you're going to park there, parking just went up $5 a day per car. I think it's already, $30, $35 a car just to park your car at the Mouse. Now, Disney's got one called the Tier 0 one-day ticket. That's valid for the park's least busiest days. Now, pay attention here because this is important. On their least busiest days, it's $104 for adults and $98 for children on the least busy days. Now, this coming year, it's going to apply to 38 days this year. But last year, it only applied to 15 days. Their least busiest days went from 15 to 38. What does that tell you down at the Mouse? People can't afford to go. People are saying, we just can't afford that kind of money in the family. We don't have the bucks to do that. Flying down there, the hotels down there, then going to the Mouse, it's getting too expensive. So their cheapest rate at Disney is now going to be at 38 days instead of 15. That tells you something's going wrong with the Mouse, folks. It's getting too expensive down there for folks to go down to Disneyland. Now, not that anybody shouldn't go. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, going to the Mouse and seeing things, man, took my kids there years and years ago. They love seeing this. It was Disney's, what they knew. I grew up with Disney. Who didn't? But today it's becoming more and more expensive. Whether you're on the West Coast at Disneyland or Orlando down with the Mouse and Walt Disney World, it's getting more expensive. Why? Because they said the cost of employees is costing them more because, well, you know that line about the honest wage or the living wage, they call it, the living wage? Well, apparently Disney has started to pay the living wage. Living wage means that it takes more money out of your pocket for you to enjoy it. That's what's happening. Just something to think about if you're planning on visiting the Mouse anytime soon. Stock up your wallet with more cash because it's going to take more of it. And that's just to get in the door. That's not the price of a restaurant, the price of food, or the price of a snow cone, for crying out loud. Everything at the Mouse and at Disneyland in the West Coast is going to cost you more money. So now they have more days with the less traffic. Tells you that things aren't going well at the Mouse. They're trying to hustle and get the money they can. But now fewer people are going, and they've had to say, well, got to raise the price, but we're still going to make our money because that's the way it is. In Walt Disney World and in Disneyland, the Mouse needs the bucks. Well, in case you haven't heard it, the WNBA season is in its final stages, the championship series. It's going on between the Las Vegas Aces and the Phoenix Mercury. And here's the problem. You haven't heard about this problem, but it is a problem. See, when they started the series, the championship series, keep that in mind, tickets were priced at $130. Now, $130 for a championship game? Well, you think fans would want to go see that? Fans in Las Vegas, fans in Phoenix? Well, it turns out if you take a look at the stadium where they played in Las Vegas, uh, well, it doesn't look real good. Matter of fact, the stadiums look really, really pathetic. So, what they had to do? Well, let's lower the price of the tickets, they thought. Let's drop them down from $130 to, say, $25. Hey, that'll get some people to come in. They did it. Once again, nobody wants to show up. Nobody wants to be there. Heck, the tickets have gone down to as low as $6 now. Well, one of the players on the Las Vegas Aces is A'ja Wilson. You remember in Game 5 against the Indy Fever, A'ja, she had over 30 points. She was a scoring machine and helped Las Vegas beat Indy. The problem was, once the season was over for Indy, well, looks like the season was over for the entire WNBA because nobody cares. A'ja Wilson went public and said, it's Caitlin Clark's fault. She's the one responsible for all this. But really? Well, think about it this way. Caitlin Clark played, 13 games in a 40-plus game season for the women? 13 games. Injured. Was out. Matter of fact, a whole bunch of the team were out. You got about 5 people that were out. You had Sophie Cunningham was out, Ari McDonald, Sydney Colson, Chloe Bibby. That's 5 starters that were out. And yet these women kept on playing. So what did Indy do? They went out and searched for people that were cast-offs from the other teams. People who they didn't want those players. They said, hey, come and sign with us. 1-week deals. 1-week deals led to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. And these people they brought in off the street started they started winning because they were all one cohesive group. They came together and they won. And even in that 5th game, when Kelsey Mitchell went down in the heap, they weren't sure what was wrong. Her body gave out, folks. It was just lack of water, whatever it was. It's like a great big giant Charlie horse in her entire body that happened. She couldn't feel anything. Her body gave out on her because she was working so hard because they wanted to win. Well, now, season's over. What's going to happen with the Indianapolis? You realize they only have 3 people under contract. That's Elijah Boston, great center, did a fabulous job. Boy, she's great. Michaela Timpson and Caitlin Clark. That's it. So what's going to happen with the likes of Sophie Cunningham? What's going to happen with the likes of Lexi Hall? Well, they're all speaking up, saying some things. The people in the front office don't like what they're saying. They're saying the league's got a problem. But does the league really have a problem? Or is it the fact that one little lady who came in from Iowa sparked an interest in something that, well, frankly, for the last 20 years, nobody really gave a squat about. WNBA has been around for 20 plus years, 27 years? They were playing the audiences of 3,000 to 4,000 people. They were playing in high school gyms. They were traveling on regular airplane flights. You know, you get on in whatever city you were, take a seat with everybody else. They were not known for anything. Nobody really cared. The only people who went there were, well, people played in college looking for some place to make about $76,000 a year. And that was during the on season. In the off season, they had to go work someplace else. Play basketball in China or Russia or wherever. Doesn't pay that much. So one little lady shows up, Caitlin Clark. Brings excitement. Brings a lot of excitement. And suddenly a whole lot of people said, let's kind of watch this. Tell you, I was one of those. I didn't watch the WNBA. Couldn't care less. Caitlin Clark came in and started going, hey, that's pretty cool. And then when they started getting the likes of Sophie Cunningham, who was, well, she's a piece of work, I'll give you that. Lexi Hall, the Trace Leches that it ended up being. And suddenly the security became so difficult that they had to take the women out of the airlines and put them on a private jet. And then did that for everybody in the league. One little lady did that. And yet, that one little lady wasn't playing because she was hurt, but she was always on the sideline, and there was the gang of 5. They were always there rooting on their team. Those women in that group, one of the tightest groups ever. But now, will you see them next year? That, folks, is up in the air. And the reason is simple. There may be a strike when this finals is over. Because the women are saying, hey, we want to be paid like the NBA stars. That ain't going to happen, I'm telling you right now. But they do have big TV contracts. They're going to be on TV. And frankly, their schedule's been picked up by another network. So they're going to be seen. But without the people there to make it interesting, without the players there, the personalities there, because that's what people want to see. They want to know who the personalities are. It's a big deal. Now you see when the Indian women come in, they got to walk in front of a screen and show off their fashion because that's the way things are turning out to be. But people want to see that. People want to watch the games. The numbers are big. The numbers were big, but without your main players, those numbers are going to sink, and they're going to sink fast. That's already been proven out. So what's going to happen to the Indy Fever if you're a fan? Only having 3 players under contract, one of them is Caitlin Clark, obviously. But with the strike, no telling. No one knows what could happen. Now, no one knows what's going to happen with the team next year. They may not have all those players you're used to seeing this year. But wherever they go, well, they're going to attract some attention. But right now, folks, you got to understand, the finals, $130 tickets are selling for $6 a pop. What does that tell you about the strength of the WNBA? And the people who want to watch it? Well, you lose 90+% of your audience on TV when you're running a game. Tells you something bad is going on. Can the league fix it? I don't know. But they're going to have to figure out a way, because if they don't, a lot of people are going to take a whole lot of bath on this financially. And it could destroy the WNBA by itself.